History is written by the victors, Sarah. We know that. But what happens when history isn't just rewritten, but erased? When the very architects of our faith decide that a specific chapter of the divine narrative is too dangerous for human eyes.
Good morning to you too, Vector. I see we're starting with light treason against the church today.
Not treason. Archaeology of the truth. Welcome to Cryptic Vector. I am your guide into the abyss, Vector.
And I'm Sarah, the one who reminds you that just because something is old and dusty doesn't mean it's a government cover-up. Sometimes things are left out of the history books because, well, they just weren't that good.
Or because they were too good, too revealing. Today, we aren't talking about a lost receipt or a misfiled tax return. We are talking about the Book of Enoch, the ancient text that describes, in vivid, terrifying detail, the rebellion of angels, the corruption of human DNA, and the true reason for the Great Flood. The Vatican didn't just lose this book, Sarah. They hunted it down. They purged it from the canon.
Okay, let's pump the brakes on the Da Vinci Code drama. The Book of Enoch wasn't hunted down. It was excluded from the biblical canon around the 4th century because the Council of Laodicea, and others, determined it wasn't divinely inspired. It was widely read in the centuries before Christ, sure. Even some of the apostles quoted it. But it's considered pseudepigrapha. That means it claims to be written by Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, but it was actually written by Jewish mystics around 300 BC. It's fan fiction, Vector. High-quality, ancient fan fiction.
Fan fiction that explains where demons come from? Fan fiction that gives the names, the actual names, of the entities that fell from grace? You call it a creative exercise. I call it a leak. A whistleblower report from the pre-flood world.
A leak?
Think about it. The Standard Bible gives us Genesis chapter 6. It's vague. It says, "The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives." And then, suddenly, there are giants in the earth. That's it. 2 sentences to explain a hybrid species that nearly wiped out humanity. It's like reading a headline without the article. The Book of Enoch is the full article. And the church realized that if people read the full article, they might start asking questions that the priests couldn't answer.
Like what? How tall were the giants?
Like, who taught us how to make swords?
Excuse me?
That's the part that terrifies them, Sarah. The Book of Enoch doesn't just talk about angels sleeping with women. It talks about technology transfer. It describes a pact made on Mount Hermon by 200 watchers. They didn't just lust after humans. They corrupted us with knowledge we weren't ready for. They taught us metallurgy for weapons. They taught us botany for poisons. They taught us astrology to predict the future. They gave us the tools of our own destruction.
So you're saying warfare isn't human nature? That we learned it from aliens or fallen angels?
I'm saying that before the flood, the world wasn't primitive. It was advanced, and it was infected. The Vatican kept this book out because it paints a picture of a universe where we are not in control and where the line between the divine and the monstrous is terrifyingly thin.
Okay, that is a compelling pitch, I'll give you that. But advanced technology is a stretch. We're talking about bronze swords and maybe some eyeliner. Enoch 8:1 literally says Azazel taught men to make swords and women to use cosmetics. It sounds less like forbidden alien tech and more like a Bronze Age beauty tutorial gone wrong. I'm contextualizing it to stay sane.
Then let me unsettle you. Let's go back to the text. Not the sanitized Sunday school version, but the raw Ethiopian manuscripts that survived. The story begins with a warning. Enoch isn't writing for his own generation. He explicitly states he is writing for a remote generation that will live in the day of tribulation. He was writing for us, Sarah.
For us? That's convenient. Every apocalyptic prophet thinks they're writing for the end times.
But his description, it's visceral. He describes the Watchers not as beautiful winged men in robes, but as terrifying, distinct entities. Samyaza, the leader, Arachiel, Kokabiel. He describes their descent. They land on Mount Hermon, a place that still exists, a place you can go to today. They swear a curse upon themselves if they fail to corrupt humanity. This wasn't a slip-up, it was a calculated invasion. And the result wasn't just giants, it was the Nephilim, creatures that consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when there was no food left, they turned on the people.
Cannibalism.
Consumption. They devoured mankind. And when the humans were gone, they began to devour each other. Imagine the horror of that world, Sarah. A world where 450-foot-tall monstrosities, the bastard children of angels, are tearing cities apart, drinking blood, and screaming to the heavens. The Bible glosses over this. It says, the earth was filled with violence. Enoch tells us what kind of violence.
Okay, that is grotesque.
It's nightmare fuel. And the Vatican looked at that nightmare and said, no, this doesn't fit the narrative of a loving, orderly creation. Hide it. But hiding the monster doesn't make it go away.
But if this was all true, Vector, if these Watchers were real physical beings who messed with our DNA and taught us warfare, where is the proof? You can't just have 450-foot giants walking around and leaving no bones. We have dinosaur bones. We have Neanderthal skulls. If the Nephilim were real, where are they?
That's the question that gets people killed. Because maybe the bones aren't missing, Sarah. Maybe they're just hiding in the Vatican archives. Or maybe, just maybe, they never really left.
Oh, here we go.
Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the timeline of the erasure. For the first few centuries of Christianity, the Book of Enoch wasn't just tolerated, it was revered. Early church fathers like Tertullian called it Scripture. Justin Martyr used it. But then, around the 4th century, the mood changed. The narrative shifted. Why? Because the story of angels breeding with humans became inconvenient.
Inconvenient? Or just inconsistent with the developing theology? You have to understand the context, Vector. The church was trying to unify a fractured belief system. They needed a coherent story. Having a book that talks about rogue angels teaching magic and creating genetic abominations didn't fit the monotheistic, orderly view of God they were trying to sell. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was editorial control.
Editorial control? They sanitized the crime scene, Sarah. Look at St. Augustine. He's the heavyweight champion of this cover-up. Early on, he accepted the Enochian view. But later, in the City of God, he completely flips. He invents, out of thin air, the Sons of Seth theory.
The Sons of Seth theory is standard theology, not an invention. It says that the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis, weren't angels. They were the righteous descendants of Seth, Adam's third son, and the daughters of men were the wicked descendants of Cain. It's a warning about interfaith marriage, basically. Good men shouldn't marry bad women, or things go wrong.
That is the flimsiest cover story in the history of religion. Think about the biology, Sarah. Use your rational brain. You're telling me that if a righteous man marries a wicked woman, their children turn into 450-foot-tall, blood-drinking giants?
Well, maybe giants is a metaphor for men of great renown or tyrants.
No. The Hebrew word is Nephilim. It comes from nephel, meaning to fall, the fallen ones. And historical texts describe them as physical monsters. Goliath was a descendant of this lineage. He wasn't a metaphor, he was a genetic anomaly. If the Sons of Seth theory is true, then righteousness is a genetic trait that, when mixed with wickedness, creates gigantism. That's absurd. It's impossible.
Okay, scientifically, you have a point. Moral alignment doesn't mutate DNA.
Exactly. The church pushed the Sons of Seth theory because the alternative was too terrifying. If angels can physicalize, have sex, and alter the human genome, then humans aren't the center of the universe. We are a petri dish. We are a side effect of a cosmic war. And the Vatican couldn't allow that narrative to stand. So they buried Enoch. They burned the copies. They told the world it was heresy. For 1,000 years, Europe didn't even know the book existed. They thought it was lost forever.
Until James Bruce found it in Ethiopia in 1773. I know the history. But Vector, just because a book is old and was suppressed doesn't make it fact. I mean, the text gets pretty wild. Enoch talks about being taken up to heaven and seeing portals where the stars and the wind come out. It reads like a hallucination.
Or it reads like a man from the Bronze Age trying to describe space travel.
Oh, stop.
Listen to the text, Sarah. Enoch 14:8. He describes flying into the clouds. He sees a wall built of crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire. He describes a house that is hot as fire and cold as ice. He's describing an environment that contradicts earthly physics. He talks about seeing the earth from above, seeing it as a sphere. How does a mystic from 300 BC know the earth is a sphere suspended in the void?
The Greeks had theories about a spherical earth around that time. It's not impossible he heard about it.
It's unlikely. But the real smoking gun isn't the space travel. It's Qumran, 1947. The Dead Sea Scrolls.
I was waiting for this.
When the shepherds found those jars in the caves, do you know what was inside? Fragments of every book of the Old Testament. And the Book of Enoch. Multiple copies. In Aramaic. This proved that Enoch wasn't just some medieval forgery written by bored monks. It was there, alongside Isaiah and Deuteronomy, used by the Essenes, a Jewish sect that hated the corruption of the priesthood in Jerusalem. They viewed Enoch as vital.
True. The Essenes were apocalyptic hardliners. They loved the doom and gloom stuff. It makes sense they'd keep Enoch around.
But here is the kicker. Among the scrolls, they found another text related to Enoch, the Book of Giants.
I've read about this. It's very fragmented.
Fragmented, but readable. It gives the names of the giant sons of the Watchers, and one of the names mentioned is Gilgamesh.
Wait, the Gilgamesh from the Sumerian epic?
The very same. The Babylonian hero. The Book of Giants connects the biblical narrative of the Nephilim directly to Sumerian mythology. It validates that these myths were all talking about the same event. The Vatican treats the Bible as a silo, separate from history. But Enoch connects the dots. It says, hey, remember those demigods the Sumerians worshipped? Those were the bastards of the Watchers. It unifies human history into a single, terrifying timeline.
So you're suggesting the Vatican removed it because it validates pagan mythology?
I'm suggesting they removed it because it reveals that the gods of the ancient world were real. They weren't statues. They were the fallen angels Enoch warned us about. And if you acknowledge they were real, you have to acknowledge they might still be here.
Still be here? Okay, Vector. You're drifting from historical suppression to active paranoia. The Book of Enoch says the Watchers were bound, locked up. Bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth. That's the text. So even if you believe this insanity, they are in prison.
70 generations. That's the specific number.
Right, a long time.
Let's do the math, Sarah. A biblical generation is often calculated as 70 years, or sometimes 40. But let's look at the timeline. If the judgment happened around the time of the flood, and you count 70 generations forward, do you know where the calendar lands?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me it lands on today.
It lands in the early 20th century, specifically the early 1900s.
Which means what?
Think about the 20th century. Suddenly, out of nowhere, humanity goes from riding horses to splitting the atom in 50 years. We develop flight, rocketry, genetic engineering, the internet, artificial intelligence, a technological explosion that is absolutely unprecedented in human history. We went from candlelight to nuclear warheads in a blink of an eye.
That's called the Industrial Revolution and the exponential growth of knowledge. It's human ingenuity, Vector. Give us some credit.
Is it? Or did the prison sentence end? Remember what the Watchers taught mankind before the flood? Weaponry, metallurgy, mirrors, altering the body. It sounds a lot like the modern world, doesn't it?
You are saying that the technological boom of the last 100 years is because ancient demons got out on parole?
I'm saying the Vatican knows exactly what time it is. Why do you think they have their own observatory? Why do you think they study exobiology? They aren't looking for Jesus in a spaceship, Sarah. They are watching for the prison break.
That is, she pauses, struggling to find a rebuttal. That is a massive leap in logic. You're taking a number, 70, and forcing it to fit a calendar to scare people.
Am I? Look at the world. Look at the obsession with genetic modification. Look at the UAP disclosure. The government is admitting there are things in our sky that defy physics, things that move like the spinning wheels Enoch described. The Vatican removed the book because it's the playbook. It tells us who the enemy is. And if people read it, they'd realize that the aliens everyone is waiting for have been here before, and they aren't friendly explorers.
If the Vatican knows this, if they really believe these watchers are loose again, why hide it? Why not scream it from the rooftops? Hey everyone, the demons are back. Pray harder. That would fill the pews, wouldn't it? Fear sells.
Because they can't stop it. And admitting that the church is powerless against the architects of civilization, that's not just a crisis of faith. That's a total collapse of authority.
So they are protecting us by keeping us ignorant?
They are protecting themselves, but the cracks are showing.
I need to look at this 70 generations math again. Because if you're right about the timing, she trails off, sounding genuinely unsettled.
It gets worse, Sarah. We haven't even talked about where they are kept and what happens when the ice melts.
Ice?
Antarctica.
Oh no. Don't tell me we're going to Antarctica.
The Book of Enoch describes a place beyond the great earth, a place of chaotic stars, a prison of ice. And guess what's happening to the ice right now? In the Book of Enoch, chapter 18, he describes being taken to the ends of the earth. He describes a place that is a waste and a desert, a place with no firmament of the heaven above and no firmly founded earth beneath. He calls it a chaotic place, a prison for the stars and the host of heaven.
The ends of the earth. That could mean anywhere. A desert, the ocean.
He describes 7 mountains of precious stones, 3 towards the east and 3 towards the south. He describes a place that burns with fire, but is cold as ice. Geologically, that sounds exactly like Mount Erebus in Antarctica, a volcano in the middle of a frozen wasteland. And what has been happening in Antarctica lately?
Scientists have been drilling. They found ancient lakes under the ice. Lake Vostok. They found life forms that shouldn't exist.
And world leaders have been visiting. Why did Buzz Aldrin, the moonwalker, get evacuated from Antarctica in 2016? Why did the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, a religious leader, go to Antarctica to bless a tiny wooden church? You don't send high-level religious figures to the South Pole to bless penguins, Sarah. You send them to perform a binding ritual.
You think they are checking the locks?
I think the ice is melting, and the Vatican knows that what's buried under there isn't just ancient bacteria, it's the entities that Enoch warned us about. Remember, the Vatican has a massive archive. They have reports from missionaries going back centuries. They know that every culture, the Maya, the Sumerians, the Hindus, tells the same story of sky gods descending. The Church labeled them demons. The modern world labels them extraterrestrials. But Enoch gives us the Rosetta Stone. They are the same thing.
This is, if you assume for 1 second that this is true, it changes everything. It means that the disclosure everyone is talking about, the government admitting to UFOs, isn't about discovering new life. It's about managing the return of old life.
Precisely. They are soft-launching the invasion. They are prepping us. If a giant ship appears over New York tomorrow, half the world will worship it as our Creator's returning. The Book of Enoch is the only text that warns us. Do not trust them. They are not creators. They are corrupted wardens. The Vatican removed the book because it ruins the surprise. It ruins the narrative that these beings are here to save us.
That actually makes me feel sick. Because if you look at pop culture, movies, books. We are being conditioned to accept higher beings interfering with us. We are being taught to wait for a savior from the stars.
And that is the ultimate trap. But there is one final terrifying piece of the puzzle. The Book of Enoch doesn't just talk about the past. It predicts a repetition. Jesus himself referenced it. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man.
I've heard that verse 1,000 times. People usually think it means people will be eating and drinking and marrying, just living life.
No. Look at the context of Noah's days. It wasn't just people having dinner parties. It was genetic hybridization. It was the corruption of all flesh. It was transhumanism.
Transhumanism?
Look at us, Sarah. Right now, we are editing the human genome with CRISPR. We are merging our brains with Neuralink. We are creating artificial intelligence that we can't control. We are doing exactly what the Watchers taught us to do. We are trying to become gods. We are rebuilding the conditions of the pre-flood world.
We are becoming the Nephilim.
We are building the vessels for them to inhabit. The Vatican didn't remove the Book of Enoch to hide history. They removed it because it's a mirror. If you read it today, you don't see an ancient world. You see our world. You see the Elon Musks, the gene editors, the weapon manufacturers. You see the sorcery of technology that we have accepted as normal.
So the apocalypse isn't fire falling from the sky. It's us, changing into something else.
The fire comes later. First comes the seduction. The Vatican knows the book contains the timeline. They know that when the 70 generations are up, the Watchers are released to judge the world that learned their secrets. And look around you, Sarah. We have learned all their secrets. We split the atom. We cracked the code of life. We are ready for the graduation ceremony. And it's not going to be a party.
I want to argue with you. I want to say this is just religious hysteria. But the timing, the technology, the fact that the Pentagon is suddenly interested in non-human intelligence. It feels like the curtain is about to drop.
The curtain is already burning. The Book of Enoch was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be a survival guide for the end times. And by hiding it, the Church disarmed us. They left us blind, walking into a trap set thousands of years ago.
So what do we do? If the Watchers are returning or are already here, what do we do?
You do the one thing they hate. You refuse to be corrupted. You refuse to worship the technology. You refuse to believe the lie that aliens are our saviors. You hold on to your humanity, Sarah, because very soon, being human is going to be a revolutionary act.
I think I need to go read that book. Tonight.
Read it. Read it before they decide to ban it again. Because the next time they suppress the truth, it won't be with a council decree. It will be with a global silence.
This has been disturbing. Truly. I usually walk away from these recordings feeling like I won the debate. Today, I just feel cold.
The cold is coming, Sarah, from the ends of the earth.
That's it for this episode of Cryptic Vector. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to go stare at the sky and hope nothing stares back.
And I am Vector. Remember, the official story is a cage. The truth is a key. But be careful which door you open. Until next time, watch the shadows.
And goodbye.